Wow, this makes everything better! It feels like I really bought a big hunk of plastic and styrofoam for only $29.99! Peripherals, or add-ons, are pieces of hardware for game consoles that are, supposedly, made to enhance one's gameplay experience. These include specially made controllers, stance mats, memory cards, and light guns, just to name a few examples. Peripherals in the gaming scene kind of got a bad rep. For every neat little device that actually does what it says on the box, you get a Sega 32X, or a Jaguar CD, or the Power Glove. Peripherals that are just gimmicky at best have a bajillion different power adapters and don't really enhance your game in a fun or meaningful fashion at worst. Half the time, these add-ons don't even function properly. But we're not talking about those add-ons for today. The PlayStation 2, being the best-selling video game console of all time, has its fair share of weird peripherals. You got stuff like transparent controllers because that was the hip thing at the time, a DVD remote because the PlayStation 2 doubles as a DVD player, which helps its tremendous success, and specially designed memory cards, shit like that. But also a Resident Evil 4 chainsaw controller, an exclusive Seaman controller, an arcade stick, SpongeBob controllers, a computer mouse, a microphone, a vibrator. A fucking vibrator. Yeah, because I totally want to pleasure myself while I'm playing Simpsons skateboarding.
Leg kickflip.
This shit doesn't fucking work. But there was one PS2 peripheral that everyone seemingly remembers that unfortunately I never got to experience until now. Before the Xbox Kinect, there was the PlayStation 2 EyeToy, released in November of 2003. It's a webcam for the PS2 that attempts to put you in the games, and maybe force you to get a little exercise. It had its own series of games, as well as some that were compatible with the camera, usually by using a photo of your face or exclusive EyeToy minigames. As I said before, I never got to play with the EyeToy. I was more of a Hasbro Ion kind of kid. While it did pretty well at the time, especially in Europe and Japan, the EyeToy gained a bit of a cult following in recent years, and only fairly recently have people managed to get EyeToy emulation working. So those who have a knack for this kind of old, outdated technology can replay these games like they did back in 2003, or in my case, experience them for the very first time. Now for this video, I want to take a look at games made for the peripheral, not games that have EyeToy compatibility, and I don't plan on going too in-depth here. We're only going to be taking a look at a small selection of games specifically made for this silly little camera, including those that were released only in Europe. Now, I didn't actually buy an EyeToy for this video, so I'll be using my webcam instead, which seems to work fine. On top of that, the emulator changed the webcam's quality to be more in line with the actual resolution of the EyeToy, which is why sometimes my face looks as red as a fresh strawberry. But with that said, let's jump into the EyeToy series of games with EyeToy Play, which was bundled with the camera. It serves as a tech demo for the peripheral, featuring a cavalcade of minigames that make use of the groundbreaking technology that 2003 had to offer. I forgot to turn the flashlight on, so now I just look like a sunburned redditor. There are 12 minigames, which primarily have you move your body around to do objectives, and I hope you've been working out, because that's how you play the majority of these games. Moving your entire body up and down and all around to play minigames is what's going to make or break add-ons like this, because you're either a lazy bum like me, or you're as big as me? Well, I'm skeletally thin and more hyperactive than a crack addict without the crack, so this was tailor-made for me. The first minigame I played was Beat Freak. Let it be known that I suck at rhythm games. I have such terrible hand-eye coordination and I suffer because of that. That's gonna be a reoccurring theme for later. The next minigame is Wishy Washy, which seems to be a highlight for many people. You see, number 1 from Kids Next Door tells you to wash as many windows as you can before the time runs out. This one's kind of fun the first time, but when recording footage for this minigame, I learned that you can just cheat by moving your hands close to the camera. Next is Soccer Craze, and it's odd. At first I thought I had to bump the ball with the side of my head to move it left or right, and it kind of works, but not well. Boxing Chump sucks. It could be a skill issue on my part or the crappy lighting, but look, I'm trying to block and it doesn't work. Am I doing something wrong? Disco Stars. Remember what I said about rhythm games? Rocket Rumble. You use your hands to make your own Disney fireworks show. It works as well as you'd expect. Now, I didn't play all of the minigames because I said before that I wasn't going in depth with this. It could just be a skill issue on my part, but these minigames barely work, and whenever they do, they get tiring after a while, because I deliberately make them tiring. EyeToy play is okay. If under better room and lighting conditions, I'd probably have a better time with it. Maybe I shouldn't be too harsh on this game. It's only a small tech demo to show off the capabilities of the camera. But as we all know, with every good tech demo, there's gotta be a sequel. EyeToy Play 2 was released in 2005 and included even more minigames, 87 in total. If I went for a more in-depth look at all of these minigames, we'd be here forever. So I took a look at a small handful for the sake of the short length of the video and my sanity. Before I actually talk about some of the minigames, I want to briefly mention the Spy Room, where you can use your EyeToy as a security camera. It's honestly really damn cool. I kinda wish there were more spy stuff for the EyeToy. The first minigame I played in EyeToy Play 2 was Air Guitar. It's Guitar Hero for fetuses, and you're looking at one. It works, plain and simple. Just don't let me touch a guitar again. Next is Drummin'. This reminds me of something familiar. I think it was called like Spyro the Dragon. Yes, what you may realize from the rest of the games that will be featured in this video, there's a few repeats. Like, a lot of repeats. In different compilations, there's going to be minigames that are very similar to some featured in other minigame compilations, so keep that in mind. Home Run is probably my favorite thus far. Is what I would have said if it wasn't for... yeah, Mr. Chef. It starts with you having to get people's orders right. A little finicky, but still a little fun. Next you have to make milkshakes, but no matter how hard I try, I cannot make the shake. I'm trying my hardest to replicate the motions here. Am I doing something wrong? A cook-off? But I can't cook. All I know is how to burn a house down. Chop the pickle. Once again, I am doing the motions, but it's barely responding well. I'd rather chop off my own pickle, but I can mash the tomatoes. I mash them up so good that when the chef loses, he becomes the power bottom in the relationship. And even though the cheese grater wouldn't agree with me, I still won.
You have beaten me, but I wasn't trying.
Yeah, clearly you weren't trying. You immediately presented your pound cake to me when you lost twice. Mr. Chef is some decent fun, but Bubble Pop is boring. You have to pop bubbles, but don't touch the red ones. This game is the pits. I only took a look at a few of these minigames. I'd say Home Run and Mr. Chef were surprisingly fun. Hell, I even liked the Spy Room, which is good because they made a full-fledged spy game in EyeToy Operation Spy. Unfortunately, I don't have much to talk about here because the game starts and I have to use my standard controller for some reason. I don't know if that's just an emulator problem, but yeah, it's still a little weird. My name is Nacho Bizzes. This game is so boring, with nothing interesting happening, that I just gave up after about 12 minutes. There's literally nothing to talk about here. If there are any other spy-related minigames afterwards, I genuinely don't care. Next is EyeToy Groove, a dancing game, and honestly I was a little excited for this. You'd think that with a dancing game for the EyeToy, you'd expect something similar to how Just Dance on the Kinect plays out, where you replicate the dancer as best as possible. I feel like it could have worked, and it would have been a lot of fun. Nope, this is just Beat Freak again, but this time with actual licensed songs. Its soundtrack consists of 2000s pop or 60s or 70s disco and funk music. I can't say much about this game, seeing how I already talked about minigames that are very similar to this one. If you like Beat Freak or Drummin', you'll get a kick out of the entirety of EyeToy Groove. And that's the last of the EyeToy series of games I've played thus far. I've tried getting EyeToy Antigrav to start up, but for whatever reason the emulator doesn't want this to work. Besides, the gameplay footage gives me PTSD. So instead, let's take a look at a game that's usually one of the first games people think of when they think of the EyeToy. Sega Superstars! Sonic the Hedgehog and these other chuckle fucks all come together for another EyeToy minigame collection. Apart from the game that was bundled with the camera, this is probably the most well-known game for the peripheral. Probably because people pointed at it and said, "Holy shit, it's Billy Hatcher!" You have 12 different minigames, each based on a different Sega IP, but not all of them. So to any fans of Shenmue or Panzer Dragoon, I am so sorry. Let's kick things off with Saba de Amigo. Sonic's minigame revolves around you trying to maneuver Sonic around a tube, collecting rings, grabbing Chaos Emeralds, avoiding spiked bombs, and getting to the goal ring at the end of the level. Seems simple, right? Well, I certainly don't make it simple. Virtual Fighter is Boxing Chump, and the same problems I have with Boxing Chump applies here, except here I no longer get sympathy from bootleg Russell from the Gorillas. Super Monkey Ball is way harder than it looks. You move your arms up and down and from side to side to control II around a level. I can't play Monkey Ball. In Crazy Taxi, you have to yell and quickly move around to get the taxi's attention. Well, the game seems to detect my movements okay, but the microphone doesn't want to work. I am yelling to get Dante from Devil May Cry here to stop and take me to a fucking Pizza Hut, and the meter is not reacting. House of the Dead, unlike the arcade counterpart, it is not an on-rails shooter. Instead, you have to punch and kick all the zombies away from you and defeat a boss at the end. It's pathetically easy. But I lost anyway. I think I'm just gonna stick with the actual House of the Dead, thank you. Space Channel 5. Choo Choo Rocket. Close these trapdoors to help these critters get to the rocket while also killing these cats so they don't get to the rocket. Again, my hand-eye coordination is really bad with this one, so I can't really say much about this. Billy Hatcher. Wave your hands to control Billy, collect fruit, and crush enemies with giant eggs. At this point in the recording process, I've become so tired and sore that I just gave up on this one. Sorry to all 5 Billy Hatcher fans out there. Virtua Striker is kind of like Soccer Craze, except instead of defeating enemies, you're trying to bounce the ball and pop balloons that reward you points. The game is boring. Moving on. Puyo Pop Fever is kind of fun. You use your body to put color-specific Puyos into color-specific holes. I liked this one. It was simple but enjoyable. The last minigame is Nights into Dreams, and next up is Rhythmic Star. Considering the box art has the stars from Dora the Explorer, I should be hyped to all hell. Game of the Year. Simply magical. Do you know what else is magical? Talking rats. Disney Move, because of course Disney had to get in on the EyeToy action. For whatever reason, whenever you make a selection, this game takes significantly longer than the previous games. On top of that, whenever I highlight a minigame that I wanted to play, the narrator gets the name of the minigames wrong.
Haunted Mansion. Peter Pan and the Pirates. A ride with Aladdin.
We're off to a great start. Stitch Groove is actually slightly different from the rhythm games I've played in this video so far. Ever so slightly. The Haunted Mansion, the Haunted Screen, is essentially, Baby's first Fatal Frame. You have to wave at the green ghosts and bitch slap the cameras to take a picture of them. But avoid the red ghosts, because they steal all your points. This game makes me want to become a ghost. Pirate Battle! This one's based on Peter Pan. It's House of the Dead, but with pirates instead of zombies. You have to protect Peter Pan from the horde of pirates coming at him by either flamboyantly flapping your hands like a dainty princess, or by wheeling your arms around and having a fit like a baby panda on cocaine. And finally, because I want to get this over with, Phantasmic. And spoiler alert, it is nothing like the show. Move your arms to cast spells and defeat magic floating heads? This minigame's kind of boring, and to be honest, there's not much I can say about it. Let's move on to the next game. Nicktoons Movin. First Disney, now Nicktoons. I'm surprised Cartoon Network didn't contribute and complete a trifecta. What's cool about this game is that when you select a minigame, you're treated to a small clip of any show the game is based on that also relates to the game that you play, including SpongeBob, Danny Phantom, Fairly OddParents, Jimmy Neutron, and even Rocket Power, which I can't even show you because YouTube's copyright system is about as stingy as Mr. Krabs. Bikini Bottom Bowling. I like bowling, therefore I'm very boring. But that's okay, because I've got some words of encouragement from our friendly neighborhood kitchen sponge, who looks like he's about to rip my face off and feed it to Gary. Also, I'd be pretty mad if I was Squidward in this situation. They turned his house into a full-fledged bowling alley. How do I explain this to my landlord? Speaking of which, where is Squidward during these minigames? Did he finally succumb to the red mist? The next minigame is kind of a mixture of the first part of Mr. Chef and Rocket Rumble. You have to match the same ingredients to make the perfect Krabby Patty. Again, another serviceable minigame that I'm very incompetent at. And judging by the footage, you can tell that I'm I'm really losing steam at this point. And the next minigame, Fishbowl Frenzy, really doesn't help. You're supposed to wave your hand to rub over and seal these cracks in Cosmo and Wanda's fishbowl, but the cracks appear way too quickly, and it takes so much waving to seal just one crack. Half the time I felt like the waving didn't even do anything. Not only that, but Cosmo is the one himself who's making the cracks in the first place. Cosmo in this minigame apparently has a death wish. I'm surprised Wanda didn't just file for divorce right then and there. Deflectomatic, stop the atoms from phasing through the walls. Once again, short and sweet, and I suck at it. Lastly, Rocket Hockey. That was Rocket Hockey. But so far, despite getting all tired at the end of each gameplay session, I at the very least had a little bit of fun with every one of these games. But the fun ends here, because this next game is called Clumsy Schmumsy. Like, what kind of title is that? By Phoenix Games. Yes, the one and only Phoenix Games, the company behind some of the most infamous PS2 shovelware titles out there. This is my very first Phoenix Games experience, and I don't know if it's just God showing some mercy, but the game thankfully does not work. Starting the game up caused the webcam to completely shit itself, and now the frame rate is ridiculously choppy. With a buttery smooth 1 frame per second, the game can't register my hand motions, meaning I can't progress through the menu, and I think that's for the best. I tried a different game, Bob the Builder by Blast Entertainment, another notorious shovelware company, and the same problem occurs. The frame rate is so bad that I cannot feasibly play the game. Unfortunately for me, the last game I'm playing for this video, Thomas and Friends A Day at the Races, doesn't have that problem, meaning I can actually play the game, but I ended up grabbing the wrong version of the game that doesn't have an English language option, so I was stuck playing the first minigame in German.
Streiche mit der Hand über den Pfeil, wenn du fährst. Die Gesichter der Loks sind durcheinander geraten. Kannst du die Gesichter den richtigen Loks zuordnen? Zu Beginn des Spiels werden...
After grabbing an English copy of the game, I start the first minigame over again, and now I can see why my mom banned me from watching this show as a kid. You have to wave your hands at the red faces above you. It's unnerving, it's creepy, and I don't like it. Next, you have to paint the train characters with the right colors in the right order. It's so slow and boring, I can't even explain it. In the last minigame I played, you had to pull this rope to drop coal into the carts for Thomas, and at this point, I didn't want to continue anymore. But Alex, I hear you say, what about the races, the main point of the game? Well, I would have given a shit about the races if Thomas here wasn't so fucking slow! How is this going to get the kids excited for this race if Thomas is as slow as molasses? I get that this is a children's game and I can't be too harsh on it, but this game is so slow and so boring that I'd have a happier time watching an actual train wreck. At the end of the day, I can see the PlayStation 2 EyeToy camera as nothing more than a mere novelty. It was probably really cool at the time, but the tech was just too ahead of its time to be long-lasting, especially considering the fact that we would get another attempt with that kind of technology in the Xbox Kinect and the PlayStation 3 Movin Eye camera a few years later. Not to mention the amount of repeats in games and mini-games, something that both the Kinect and Wii have problems with, is innumerable. But with that said, the EyeToy camera is an interesting little time capsule of what people think games could be capable of in the early to mid 2000s. If you grew up with this nifty little camera, Godspeed. That's fantastic. You'd probably have a better time playing with the thing than I did. Hey everyone, Sickly here. Yeah, I'm sorry that this video took way too fucking long to make. Not only was I doing the usual procrastinating shit, I ended up getting sick twice. And the first time it happened during production of this video, my throat hurt so bad that I couldn't even speak. Yeah, that wasn't fun. So because of not only the sickness but my procrastination, I don't have a video planned for Halloween per se. I don't know, maybe I can ask a friend if we could make a video on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie when that comes out. I have another gaming video planned about Winnie the Pooh games, one or two of which I've actually played when I was a little kid. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to like, comment, share this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I upload another video. And now I leave you with the previous video on Sonic Genesis GBA, my first Sonic game. Yeah, not a great introduction. I'm gonna recover from this sickness now. Thank you and good night.